Today we're going to be talking about flippers. One of the easiest ways to make a flipper is by using one of these wide-length popsicle sticks. These wide-length popsicle sticks are long enough that if you put one with a little bit on the outside and most of it on the inside, they reach nearly to the center, which is a feature you'll see in a lot of pinball machines. So when you're making your flipper, you can stick it so that some of it is on the inside and some of it is on the outside. And the best way to do that is to make a small cut in the side of your pinball machine. Before you make this cut to the actual pinball machine itself, you want to make sure you know exactly where your flippers are going to be and how your ball is going to get delivered to the bottom of your machine. I'm going to explain a little more about that in a second, but for now, all you need to know is that for your flipper, the button of the flipper is going to be on the outside. On the left, you have one of your arms of your lever, and on the right, you have the other arm of your lever. The fulcrum, in this case, is the side of the box. That's where this lever is going to pivot back and forth so that it can act as a flipper for your pinball machine. I'm going to show you where to make that cut and a couple of things to keep in mind before you actually make the cut in your pinball machine. To help give you an idea of what types of things you need to look out for with our levers and our flippers, I'm going to show you what this one looks like. So on the outside here, there's the action of the lever. So this is what I'm actually flipping when I want to flip my lever. On the inside, past the fulcrum, which is that little cut in the cardboard there, really close to it, I have a rubber band. And that rubber band is holding my flipper in the back position. But because it's so close to the side here, it's not actually holding it back that much. So I can pretty easily move it back and forth. Now the other two things to keep in mind is that on my pinball machine, I have this funnel going down to the bottom. So if it goes past the flippers through this area right here, it's going to get funneled into this little hole I cut at the bottom, which is going to deposit it into my egg cup receptacle. That way I can grab it, put it back into the starter, and we can start another round. So that funnel is one thing you might want to consider. You can absolutely just pick it up from your pinball machine and stick it in if that's not something you have time for or it doesn't fit with your design. The other sort of feature I added onto here is this little bar right there. That's a little bit of a confusing angle, so let me change that a little bit. So this bar right here just holds my flipper down. The reason I added this is because when I was playing, I noticed that the flipper would want to stick up off the surface of the board like that. And that made it so the ball can go right underneath it, and that was a little bit hard to figure out. But by adding this little bar right here, it meant that the flipper can't go up. So when I'm going back and forth, it only goes side to side and it stays down on the play surface. That's another feature that if you have time for, might be interesting to add, but you can still absolutely play these pinball machines without that feature. So if that's not something you have time for, don't sweat it too much. On the other side, I have just the mirror image of that same flipper. I like the flippers to be symmetrical, but you're welcome to try out two different designs on either side. I've seen people who have flippers on the side like that, so they don't go side to side, but they go up and down. And you could also have flippers up on the top parts here. So you could have 3, 4, 5 flippers if you would like. Just come up with your design and your plan before you actually start cutting the flipper holes into your box, so you know how this is all going to work out. For cutting the hole of the flipper, you want to be very careful. You need an adult to help you out with this, but when you do this, you're just going to cut with the box cutter a single slit along the side of the box. That single slit is going to be able to let the popsicle stick through. And once you have that popsicle stick through, the outside is going to act as your button, and the inside is going to act as your flipper. This is the most basic design, and you can absolutely just leave a flipper like this, and that has the arm on one side, the arm on the other side, so that you have an effective flipper. That's all you need to have for your flipper design. Everything else that I mentioned just makes it a little easier to use. The question I'm going to leave you with today is, why would you want the flipper to be so short on this side and so long on this side? When you're making your flipper, experiment with this. So if I pull this so it's more like half and half, how does that change how the flipper behaves? Or if I change it even more and have this be the flipper side and this be the button side, why is this design less good than this design for a flipper? What difference are you making, and why is one better as a flipper than the other? That's the question I'm going to leave you with today, and I'll see you tomorrow.